Hi friends, this is the first part of the module 6 lectures. In module 6 we are going to learn about the following topics. First of all, we will develop a general procedure for the formulation of shape functions. Next we will study 2D triangular elements, in which we will specifically learn about CST elements, that is constant strain triangular elements. Then isoparametric formulation, Gauss quadrature, and finally we will solve some problems on 2D stress analysis. We have learned some basic things about shape functions in the last module. In this lecture, we will try to expand our knowledge a bit more. Shape functions, as we saw earlier, are functions which interpolates the solution between discrete values obtained at the nodes. That means, if we know the value of the solution variable at nodes, using shape functions, we can calculate the value of that variable at any point on that element by interpolation. For example, for a 1D linear element with the two nodes, if we know the displacements at nodes, let u1 be the displacement at node 1 and u2 be the displacement at node 2, we can calculate displacement at any intermediate point, for example this point or this point. Hence, shape functions are also called interpolation functions. Even though some other functions such as trigonometric functions etc. are rarely used as interpolation functions, polynomials are the most widely used because of the three main reasons. They are easy to integrate and differentiate, easy to formulate for use in computer programs. The accuracy of the result can be improved by choosing a higher degree polynomial. That's by increasing the order of the polynomial. The last step is commonly referred to as a method in mesh refinement. Mesh refinement is usually carried out to increase the accuracy of FEM solutions. It can be achieved in two ways. Either we can increase the number of elements. So if we have a problem, again one-dimensional problem, if we increase the number of elements, we'll get a better accuracy. So either we can increase the number of elements or by increasing the order of the element. So if we want to improve the result or improve the accuracy of this solution further, either we can divide it again into larger number of elements, or we can use a higher degree polynomial for an element. So instead of using a linear element, you can use a quadratic element or a cubic element. So if we increase the number of elements, that will be, we are increasing the degree of freedom. We are adding additional nodes. So if we have a linear element, we will have only two nodes. If you have a quadratic element, you will have three nodes in the one-dimensional case. As I said earlier, increasing the number of elements theoretically increases the accuracy of the solution, but practically this is true only to a certain extent, since computers can process and store data only with the limited precision. Having too many elements may reduce the accuracy of the result if we have very large number of elements, but that is beyond the scope of this discussion. So you can learn about it in dedicated courses in numerical methods. In the last module, we have derived the expression for shape functions for 1D linear and quadratic bar elements. In this lecture, we are going to develop a systematic, more structured procedure for deriving shape functions that will help us to extend this idea to two-dimensional elements. For a one-dimensional element, shape functions were obtained as n1 equal to 1 minus x by L and n2 x by L, where x represents the local coordinate and L represents the length of the element. Similarly, displacement function can be represented in terms of shape functions like this. So we have here 1 minus x by L, that is a shape function n1, and 2 is x by L. Again we have a vector column vector of nodal displacements u1 and u2, where u1 is the displacement at the first node, that is at x equal to 0, and u2 is the displacement at the second node, that is x equal to L. So now we are going to develop a systematic procedure for deriving shape functions. So first we will consider the 1D element. For a 1D linear element, we have only two nodes, and each node has only a single degree of freedom. Each node can displace in x direction only. Since we are considering a one-dimensional problem, since there are 2 degrees of freedom, the displacement function is represented as a linear polynomial. Please keep the matrix form in mind. So this is a matrix representation of this linear polynomial a0 plus a1x. We can represent it as a product of these two matrices. Similarly, displacement function can be represented in terms of shape functions. That is, we have u of x equal to n1 u1 plus n2 u2, where n1 and n2 are functions of x. If we multiply these two matrices, we get this expression. So you have to keep this matrix forms in mind. We will frequently refer to this one and this one. So both are representations of displacement function. Here this is a direct polynomial, and this is in terms of shape function. So here, in order to find out the expression for n1 and n2, that's functional forms of shape functions, we have to calculate a0 and a1. To find out a0 and a1, we will apply the nodal condition, that is, we have a linear element. So we have a linear element of length L. There are two nodes, node 1 and node 2, and the nodal degrees of freedoms are u1 and u2. Where here they are displacements, so u1 and u2. So this is a bar element, so it is only subjected to an axial force. So bar element is only subjected to axial forces. So it can only deform along this direction. So we have only 2 degrees of freedom for representing its state, for state of deformation. So we have displacement at node 1, that is u1, and at node 2 we have displacement u2. So that we can represent in this form, that u of x equal to 0. Here our coordinate system is, so at x equal to 0 we have displacement u1, and at x equal to L we have displacement u2. That we can represent it as an algebraic equation. We can substitute our functional form of a displacement function was u of x equal to a0 plus a1x. So if we substitute x equal to 0 in the first equation, we will get this expression, and at x equal to L we will get this expression. So these two equations if we solve, we obtain a0 and a1. So we will do it more systematically. So we will convert it into a matrix form. So we have a matrix representation of the same equations. So we have to calculate a0 and a1. In order to find out a0 and a1, we can take the inverse of this matrix and multiply it to the u1 and u2. So we will get the a0 and a1. So we have to find out the inverse of this matrix. So if we represent this matrix as matrix A, then A inverse can be represented as adjoint of A divided by determinant of A. So we have to calculate adjoint and determinant. So determinant can be easily calculated. So determinant A will be L minus 0, that is L. Now to calculate the adjoint of A, so we will have to find the cofactor matrix and take the transpose of that matrix. But in case of a 2 by 2 matrix, adjoint matrix can be easily find out. So it will be adj will be what we have to do is we have to interchange the diagonal elements a11 and a22. So we will put L1 here. Other to other elements, that is A12 and A21, we'll simply multiply with the minus 1. So 0 will again remain 0, 1 will become minus 1. So this is a adjoint matrix for this 2 by 2 matrix 1 0 1 L. So since it is 2 by 2 matrix, we can easily find out like this, but if you have a higher order matrix, if you have a 3 by 3 matrix, you will have to do all these things manually. Then you have to calculate the adjoint. So A inverse becomes 1 by L, L0 minus 1, 1. So that becomes, in this I'll write it here, A inverse is L by L, that is 1, 0, here minus 1 by L and 1 by L. So that is the inverse matrix that I have written here, 1 0 minus 1 by L and 1 by L. So A0, A1, this matrix can be represented as product of these two matrices. So next we have our matrix form for displacement function, that u of x equal to 1x A0 A1. So A0 A1, this matrix we have obtained from the last step. So we can replace this A0 A1 with the product of these two matrices. So we get u of x equal to 1x A0 A1. So if we replace A0 A1 with this product of these two matrices, we get three products of three matrices, 1x minus 1 minus 1 by L, 0 1 by L, and u1 u2. And we also have an expression for displacement function in the form of, in terms of shape functions. So if we compare these two equations, both are u of x, so we can see that this here this product is we have here u1 u2, that matrix of nodal degrees of freedom. So this is, both are same. So you can find that this n1 n2, this shape function matrix, is actually the product of this 1 minus 1x 1 minus 1 by L, 0 1 by L. So the product of these two matrices will be equal to our shape function matrix. So if you multiply it, we get 1 minus 1 into 1 minus x by L, 1 into 0 0 into x by L. So 1 minus x by L and x by L. So these are the shape functions n1 and n2. So this result we got earlier also, but now we tried a more systematic approach for finding the shape function. You can do either method, both are essentially same, but here it is more systematic. We are using matrices for calculating that. Next we are going to consider shape function for a beam element. First of all, we have to understand the difference between the bar element and beam element. So bar element undergo axial force and deforms in axial direction, whereas beam element undergo flexural deformation. They are subjected to transverse forces or moments and deform perpendicular to the axis of the element. It's actually bending. Unlike bar element, deformation of beam element cannot be expressed in 2 degrees of freedom. Since when the bending happens, it is no longer a one-dimensional problem. It becomes a two-dimensional problem. So we'll have to use higher degrees of freedom. Let us see with an example. For example, consider these cases. Both of them has exactly same nodal displacement. So V1, this V1 and this V1 are equal, and this V2 and this V2 are equal. Both of them have exactly same nodal displacement, yet they represent entirely different state of deformation. This bends like this and this bends like this. So with the 2 degrees of freedom alone, we cannot completely specify the deformation. So we'll have to specify additional degrees of freedom to specify the deformation completely. If we consider the slope of the element at the nodes as additional degrees of freedom, we can specify the element deformation uniquely. Thus, we have 2 degrees of freedom per node. At the first node, we have V1 and theta 1, and at the second node, we have V2 and theta 2. So, we have 2 degrees of freedom, transverse deflection V and slope theta. Hence, we will have 4 degrees of freedom in total. So, if we consider this beam element, so beam element will have total 4 degrees of freedom. So the bar element considered earlier had 2 degrees of freedom. However, beam element has 4 degrees of freedom. So you have to understand the difference between bar element and a beam element. So since there are 4 degrees of freedom, the displacement field is represented as a cubical polynomial. So the degree of the polynomial will be 1 less than the total number of degrees of freedom. So we have 4 degrees of freedom and our displacement function can be represented as a cubical polynomial, which can be expressed in terms of shape functions and nodal variables. So our nodal degrees of freedoms are V1, theta 1, V2 and theta 2. So displacement function can be represented in terms of shape functions like n1 V1 plus n2 theta 1, n3 V2 plus n4 theta 2. So that can be represented in matrix form as a product of n1, n2, n3, n4. This is our shape function matrix. This is our nodal degrees of freedom. Here we have to specifically call it a matrix of degrees of freedom because we have displacements as well as slopes. So this vector is not entirely displacement, it is a degrees of freedom vector. Then V of x can be represented a0 plus a1x plus a2x square plus a3x cube. That can be represented in a matrix form like product of these two matrices. So we have to keep this matrix form in mind. Similarly, this one also. The nodal conditions can be represented as, so we have our displacement function v of x equal to a0 plus a1x plus a2x square plus a3x cube. So you have to find the slope also. Slope is actually derivative of the displacement function. So dv by dx is a1 plus 2a2x plus 3a3x. So the nodal conditions, we have displacement or deformation at x equal to 0 is v1. So that can be represented as, if we substitute x equal to 0 in the first expression, we get a0 plus a1 into 0 plus a2 into 0 plus a3 into 0 equal to v1. Similarly, slope at x equal to 0, that is represented as theta 1, that is, here we don't have a0, so a1 plus 2a2 into 0 plus 3a3 into 0 equal to theta 1. At x equal to L, we have displacement v2, that at x equal to L, we substitute x equal to L in this expression for v of x, we will get a0 plus a1L plus a2L square plus a3L cube, that is equal to v2. Similarly, the slope at the second node, so dv by dx at x equal to L, that is theta 2, that is equal to 0 plus 2a2 into L plus 3a3 into L square. Sorry, here square is the 3a3 into L square into that is equal to theta 2. Now these expressions can be represented in a matrix form. So we write a matrix. The last four equations are combined into the equivalent matrix form. So this is our matrix we obtained here: a0, a1, a2, a3, v1 theta 1, v2 theta 2. So our aim is to calculate this coefficients a0, a1, a2, a3, etc. like we have done in the earlier one-dimensional bar element case. So we have to take the inverse of this matrix, and if you multiply that inverse with the right hand side vector, we will get this matrix. So to calculate the inverse again, we have to go through that entire procedure. So this, with this matrix is A inverse will be adjoint of A by determinant A. I am not going to the calculation of that you can learn in any mathematics textbook. So if you find the inverse, you will get something like this: 1 0 0 0 0 1 0 0 minus 3 by L square minus 2 by L 3 by L square minus 1 by L 2 by L cube 1 by L square minus 2 by L cube 1 by L square. So this is a matrix of inverse of this matrix. So a0, a1, a2, a3 is this matrix times v1 theta 1, v2 theta 2. Next, since we got a0, a1, a2, a3, etc., we can see that this expression v of x can be represented as 1x x square x cube times that vector. So we will substitute that here. So v of x is 1 minus 1x x square x cube times that a0, a1, a2, a3, that vector. So instead of that, we will substitute this product. So this is our displacement function. So in this, we can compare this expression with this expression, that is v of x equal to shape function times nodal degrees of freedom. So we can see that this entire part, this product form the matrix of shape functions. So shape functions are n1, n2, n3, n4, that is equal to this product. If we multiply it, we get interpolation functions as n1 n2, n3 and n4. So we can just see that 1 minus x square into 3 by L square x cube into 2 by L cube. We got here 1 minus x square into 3 by L square x cube into 2 by L cube. So we can multiply each terms and calculate the displacement function. Can be written as n1 v1, n2 theta 1, n3 v2 plus n4 theta 2. So we got the displacement function for a one-dimensional beam element. Next, shape function or interpolation function of a higher order 1D element, higher order 1D bar element. So this one also we have done in the last module, so I will not go into the detail. I will just skip through the steps. So first of all, again we have this definition for displacement function and displacement function in terms of shape functions. So this matrix you have to keep in mind. When we next lecture we will be going to the two-dimensional counterparts of this. So in that case you will have to remember this. Nodal conditions. So here, so higher order element, this is a quadratic element. So we have 3 nodes. The length of the element is L. So at x equal to 0 we have the first node, at x equal to L by 2 we have the second node, at x equal to L we have the third node. The nodal displacements are u1, u2 and u3. So at u of x equal to 0 is u1, so we can substitute x equal to 0 in the expression. Our displacement function is u of x is a0 plus a1x plus a2x square. So in that displacement function we can substitute x equal to 0, so we get this expression. When x equal to L by 2 we get this expression, and x equal to L we get this expression. So we get these 3 expression. Now we can represent those matrices in the matrix form like this as a product matrix. So next we have to find out this matrix A0, A1, A2. So for that we will take the inverse of this matrix. So inverse can be calculated. So I am not going to the details of that. So that's this you can see. So u of x equal to 1x square, and this is this matrix, and u2, u3, u1, u2, u3. This you can compare with the earlier expression, that is u of x equal to n1, n2, n3 times u1, u2, u3. So if we compare this, you can see that this shape function matrix n1, n2, n3 is the product, this product. So the shape functions are n1, n2, n3 and this product. So each shape function can be calculated. 1 minus 3x by L plus 2x square by L square, 4x by L minus 4x square by L square, and minus x by L plus 2x square by L square. So in the next lecture we are going to extend this to two-dimensional case. Thank you.